YouTube, welcome to Wrestling Designs, and in today's video jumping back onto the Wagon R. As you guys saw in the last video, the exhaust system made next to no difference at all. There's other areas that are holding the car back, like the calibration, the smaller turbo, the intake pipe, and a few bits and pieces. So with today's modifications, we should actually see hopefully we should see a drop. Hopefully, I'm hoping again for another second off the times. If we can get it down into the high 9s or low 10s, I'll be happy with that, and bring the quarter mile down maybe into the 16s or the low 17s. Let's see how it goes. So let's walk over to the car now and I'll show you guys what's going to be done today. So originally this was just going to be a how-to video on how to do the oil cooler, and it will be kind of majority will be showing you a how to do the oil cooler, and it'll be a two-part kind of longer video. And I'll also be showing you guys what's involved if you want to fit a 130 PD ECU into your lower spec 115, and the bits that are needed to get it running as OEM as possible and as cleanly as good as possible. So this is the first thing we're going to be doing, is the ECU. It sits just underneath there. If you just put it in, it won't work. So you do either need to get the immobilizer removed or have the machine so that you can code it to the car. Now the map sensor, also the standard 115 map sensor, which ends in a B, is only 2.5 bar. You need the C one, which is 3 bar, so it matches so the ECU can read it properly. Also, you're going to need the bigger MAF sensor that sits on the airbox. This one's a 3-inch, and also the MAF sensor numbers I think are different, whereas this one's only 2.5 inch, so it's a lot smaller, so it will have different values for the ECU, as well as you need the intake pipe. It's bigger as well, and there's a gain from that. And also to go with this modification, like I said, I'm going to be doing, to get to the map sensor, you have to take the bumper off potentially, and I might as well just get this oil cooler mounted up as well. So let's get on with this, guys. First things first, fit the ECU on and actually start removing the cover and start getting this intake stuff fitted in first before we move on to the bumper. Back here on the bench, I've got all the bits side by side so you actually can see the comparison from the 115, because I think also the 100 horsepower PD has the same stuff compared to the 130 and the 150 stuff. Here it is on the bench. So as you guys can see, there is actually quite a big size difference, which also means flow difference, CFMs. The airflow is going to be a lot more restricted with this smaller stuff. So if you are going for anything, I think over about 160 to 180, you need to go for the bigger stuff really, which is what the target is with this. It's 200 plus, hopefully 220. This is what I tried to imitate when I did my 110 AFN, and that's also what I've done on the open air, is try and make it as big as I can down the bottom here. Actually, funny enough, on my on the open air, if it zooms in, focusing, I actually used one of these on the turbo to go up as big as I can. This is the corrugated bit that goes from the airbox to the intake pipes. As you can see quite a sizable difference there between them. And then the airboxes, I think they are actually interchangeable, but because the MAF sensor's on it, I'm not going to mess around with it. Let me turn them around so that you can see. I think more or less that's a 2.5, and that's more or less 3-inch. That's the difference between them. All right, so let's get these bits on, and then we can crack on with taking off the bumper and getting that map sensor fitted into the intercooler. So I've got the pipe on, it's all connected at the bottom. It's a little bit tricky down the bottom there, especially if you use the spring clips and not Jubilee clips, like I like to use these original clips when possible. So the pipe's on, it's really quite easy. All that's left now to do is to screw up these airbox. And that's it. Plug in the MAF sensor, make sure that's plugged in. Okay, so the next job is to remove this front bumper and actually this map sensor is mounted on the intercooler, and then look at mounting up the oil cooler. Thinking about doing it here, and I might actually cut up the vent as well so some air can go through there, kind of trim it all up. It's quite nice. I'm gonna mount it on this side, I think. So I opted to actually remove the headlight as well, and actually remove the intercooler, because where the screws was, it was really tight, and also there's the danger of them snapping in the intercooler. And also, let me show you guys a little trick on how to remove these screws out of the intercooler for the map sensor. Let's move over to the bench now. So I've got the intercooler here on the bench, and what happens is these screws now, you need to be very careful, because these snap really easily. If you snap this in here, I mean, it's going to be a mission. There's no way of drilling it out. You're drilling into plastic. You know, you literally, that's it. It's scrap almost. So I'm going to try very carefully. I've used this trick a few times, is with a hot air gun, and just heat up the plastic around the screw. And hopefully it will come out. All right, the first one came out, and as you can see, it was quite rusty. So what I did was, I'll try and show you guys. I'm gonna heat it up, and then as I'm heating it up, you'll start to smell it smelling a little bit of plastic. And then what I do is I put the screwdriver on it, and slowly put some pressure on it, and then you can actually feel it come loose as you apply the pressure and the heat at the same time. So I'm putting pressure on it, and without even increasing the pressure, you can feel the screw come loose. So as you saw, as I was literally put a little bit of pressure, applied a little bit of pressure, and then all of a sudden it just worked itself loose because of the hot air gun. Works a treat, that does. So it's a nice little handy tip for you guys. There is two sizes. You see, this is a large map sensor, and this is the one I'm going to be fitting, is a smaller type. So there's two types. Now that isn't going to work in there, as you can see. It's just not going to seal. You're going to have issues with that. Luckily for me, I found in my box of tricks a reducer, which is actually for this. So it's perfect. So basically all you do is you put a little bit of sealant, and you put that in there, and then you put that inside, and it makes up the difference. So quite happy I found this this reducer. All right, cool. So now I'm just, like I said, put a smidgen of sealant around there. As you can see, I actually put a new plastic on, because the other one was broken here as well. It was a bit shorter, so this one covers all the way, so it's going to scoop in all the air. Not that it makes much of a difference, but at least it's back to how it should be. And that's it, get the bumper on. I'm really excited now to see what kind of performance gains this is going to have. Hopefully I can knock off a second again, and in the position where I wanted it to. The horns are here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the brackets for these and actually relocate them further back along the chassis leg, so it kind of sits here just before the mudguard, and now it gives me enough space hopefully to mount them here. All right, it's looking pretty good. I'm really happy with that. Giving it a lick of paint as well. So mounted it up. What I did was, there's actually a natural where the horn goes. I used the inner one from there, and then I used actually another horn bracket and extended it and put it onto the inside there with a riv nut to hold it in place, so it's sturdy. And they gave it a lick of paint for it to be black. Now at the bottom of the oil filter housing, you have this little cup here, which we're going to replace. This is where the thermostat, this is where the oil cooler sandwich goes. Remove this, and I'll show you the replacement item that goes in its place. So as you guys can see, it's a pretty messy job. As soon as you start to loosen it, all the oil out of the oil filter will come dripping out. Okay, so while we're waiting for it to all drain, we'll move over to the bench, and I'll show you the difference between this and the other one. All right guys, so here on the bench you can see the difference. Slightly shorter, the original one, compared to the one that comes with the mold cool kit as well as obviously the original one's plastic, and the mold cool one is all in steel, and obviously the slight difference in height to take up the difference of obviously the sandwich where it goes on. Let's get this on. So I've got the oil cooler sandwich plate fitted, also around the pipes so it doesn't touch anything, so it won't rub
and rub through either the power steering pipe or the AC pipe. It's all good. I've also run it up, one to check the level, so I ran it up for a few seconds, and with the oil that came out plus the extra oil that the oil lines take and the cooler itself, it took almost a litre more. And once I checked the level, topped it up, ran it up for about 15 minutes, no leaks. That's all good now. So the next thing I've got to do is actually sort out the venting for here. I'm going to cut out and make a nice air duct so it feeds air to the oil cooler, and then actually make like a little, like I say, like a duct, so it come around and scoop the air down so it forces it through into the oil cooler. As by magic, here's one I've cut up already. Maybe I shouldn't have cut these ones in the end, it wasn't really needed. And I've made like a little partition so it kind of feeds the air downwards. As you can see, I've used some ABS plastic and a hot air gun. So let's go and see if this fits now. I mentioned earlier that little cutout was originally for the air temp sensor, and that's actually in the way, so I'm just gonna have to trim this much off the bumper off to actually get the vent in. Don't know how much you guys can see, but yep, it literally feeds. As I put my finger down, you can see it feeds it all the way down and straight into the oil cooler, which is sitting here at an angle. Unfortunately, can't really show it to you too well, but it's all done and fitted, and it will look OEM.
Right, so it's the next day. I've taken it for a drive. So the engine light came on and it went into limp and or safe mode. I scanned it again and it came up with EGR. So somehow it's reading the EGR. I think the 130s might actually read the EGR, or it might be to do with it now doesn't see the fuel pump relay. It says open circuit or open to earth, to ground. Because this is an early PD 115, it doesn't have the in-tank fuel pump. So that's probably why it isn't seeing it. So I've done some, went through my looms, and I found a Mark IV loom that has the wire I need. It needs the relay, which is, I think is 167, and all the wires that I need with the plug, as well as it's a purple and white wire that goes to that little box underneath. It goes to a white plug that then goes to the ECU. On the ECU side, it changes color from purple to yellow, but that's actually there in the loom already. It's just not there on the inside of the car, so it's pretty straightforward. So I'm going to show you guys what I've done so far. So far I've run the wires here, which is the bigger plug. As you can see, this is just a 2-pin plug versus the 3-pin plug. What I'm going to do is I'll just de-pin these maybe and put those straight into there, so it saves messing around. So I haven't put the pump in yet. I'm going to try and sort out the wiring first. Right, so I've got the wiring, ran it all up underneath there, and this is what I'm left with, which is a blue and red wire and a brown wire which goes to earth. So I'm going to put that to the earth terminal there, and the other wire goes to this relay, which is 167, and it's got a thick blue wire which obviously takes a positive 12, and this is fused, so I need to fuse this. It's an ignition, so I'm going to find it on the back of the fuse box here where it goes. It's quite straightforward really to find that wire that goes onto there, and that's it really, and then I'm all pretty much done. Here is that purple wire that I was talking about, purple and white wire. What I've done is I've actually de-pinned it from the plug. Okay, so this is the white plug I was talking about, which is where the purple and white wire needs to go into, and it goes into pin number 6, which is here. And to put it in, you need to push this inwards, so that kind of comes out to allow you to put the pin in, and that's it, it's done there. And now that has to go up into there, back into the white plug, or else the car won't run. So let me just, I'm gonna need 2 hands to get this done. Okay, so got the plug finally in, all sorted. So now just gonna put this fuse box back up. Slide it in, one-handed if I can. And that's the relay, the extra relay that's gone in, that powers the fuel pump relay. Now I just need to do
these other 2 wires. So I've scanned it before I actually run it up, make sure I clear all the codes, and before I put all the covers on, turn the ignition on. Okay, that's a good sign. I can hear the fuel pump priming. So, very good, very good. There's no codes, the lights are off, it runs. Let me get these trims back on so we can take it for a little test drive. So there you have it, guys. Fitting the 130. I mean, it's a bit of an odd mix because it's got the 130 injectors, the MAF sensor, the MAP sensor, and the turbo intake, as well as it's got the fuel pump in it now. But it's still running the 115 turbo on it, and with the ECU standard. So it actually went down now. So we're at 10.9 seconds, 0 to 100, and the quarter mile time now is in the low 17s. So we're moving in the right direction. So now the next time you'll see this car, I'll be doing the turbo, the intercooler, and actually fitting the mapped ECU, which should hopefully see me into the 200s, even on this 115 engine. And let's see if we can get this down to where it should be, hopefully in the 9s is what I'm aiming for. I don't know if that's going to be that much of a jump, but hopefully it will be. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Ding-a-ling-a-ling. Click on the notification bell and be safe.